Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Shri Radhe Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Shri Radhe Jaya Nita Gora Sundar Nita Gora Sundar Gora Hari Jaya Nita Gora Sundar Nita Gora Sundar Gora Hari Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Asto Dharasata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo all glories to the simple devotees Hare Krishna all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Satatmane Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Desatarine So Hare Krishna, devotees, welcome. The first day of 2024. I'm not sure how the year just passed through, but this morning we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, chapter 17. So we have a few verses this morning. We're going to be reading 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, with 9 having a purport. So I'll read the Sanskrit and translation of 6, 7, 8, and then 9 will go into more details. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayat Nastaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloka Bhakti Bhavati Naistakir. So we are reading Canto 5, chapter 17, verses 5 to 9. Verse 5, and they're all in prose. Tatra chaturda vidyamana chaturbir namabis chatur tisam abhishpandanti nada nadi patim eva vinivisati sitalakananda chakshur badriti. Translation. On top of Mount Meru, the Ganges divides into 4 branches, each of which gushes in a different direction, east, west, north, and south. These branches, known by the names Sita, Alakananda, Chakshu, and Bhadra, flow down to the ocean. 6. Sita tu Brahma Sadanat, Keshara Chaladi Giri Sikaribhyo Doda Prasravanti Gandhamadana Murdashu Patit Vantarena Bhadrasva Varsham Prachyam Dishi Shara Samudram Apipravisati. Translation. The branch of the Ganges known as the Sita flows through Brahmapuri atop Mount Meru, and from there it runs down to the nearby peaks of the Kesarachala Mountains, which stands almost as high as Mount Meru itself. These mountains are like a bunch of filaments around Mount Meru. From the Kesarachala Mountains, the Ganges falls to the peak of Gandhamadana Mountain, and then flows into the land of Bhadrashva Varsha. Finally, it reaches the ocean of salt water in the west. 7. Evam malyavat chikara nishpatanti tato nuparata vekha ketumalam avichakshu pratijyam dishi saritpatim pravisyati. Translation. The branch of the Ganges known as Chakshu falls onto the summit of Malyavan mountain, and from there cascades onto the land of Ketumala Varsha. The Ganges flows incessantly through Ketumala Varsha, and in this way also reaches the ocean of salt water in the west. 8. Bhadra Kotarato Meru Shiraso Nipatita Giri Shikara Giri Shikaram Atihaya Sringavata Sringhad Avasyantamana Uttaram Stukurun Abhita Udichyam Dishi Jaladim Abhipravisati. Translation. The branch of the Ganges known as Bhadra flows from the northern side of Mount Meru. Its waters fall onto the peaks of Kumuda Mountain, Mount Nila, Sweta Mountain, and Shringavan Mountain in succession. Then it runs down into the province of Kuru, and after crossing that land, flows into the salt water ocean in the north. Text 9. Tateva Kalananda Dakshinena Brahma Sadanad Bahuni Giri Kutani Atikramya Hemakusad Daima Kutyan Yati Rabasatra Ramhasa Lutayanti Bharatam Abhivarsham Dakshinasyam Dishi Jaladim Abhipravisati Yasyam Snaratam Chagachata Pumsa Pade Pade Svameda Rajasuyadinam Palam Na Durlabham Iti. So let's go through synonyms and the translation and then the purport of text 9. Tata Eva, similarly. Alakananda, the branch known as Alakananda. Dakshinena, by the southern side. Brahma Sadanat, from the city known as Brahmapuri. Bahuni, many. Girikutani, the tops of mountains. Atikramya, crossing over. Hemakutat, from Hemakuta mountains. Haimakutani, and Himakuta. Ati Rabashatara, more fiercely. Ramhasa, with great force. Lutayanti, plundering. Bharatam Abhivarsham, on all sides of Bharata Varsha. Dakshinasyam, in the southern. Dishi, direction. Jaladim, the ocean of salt water. Abhiprapisati, enters into. Yasyam, in which. Snana artam, for bathing. Cha, and. Agachata, of one who is coming. Pumsa, a person. Pade pade, at every step. Ashvamedha Rajasuya Adinam, of great sacrifices like the Ashvamedha Yagya and the Rajasuya Yagya. Phalam, the result. Na, not. Durlabham, very difficult to obtain. Iti, thus. Translation. Similarly, the branch of the Ganges known as Alakananda flows from the southern side of Brahmapuri, Brahmasadana. Passing over the tops of mountains in various lands, it falls down with fierce force upon the peaks of the mountains Hemakuta and Himakuta. After inundating the tops of those mountains, the Ganges falls down onto the tract of land known as Bharatavarsha, which she also inundates. Then the Ganges flows into the ocean of salt water in the south. Persons who come to bathe in this river are fortunate. It is not very difficult for them to achieve with every step the results of performing great sacrifices like the Rajasuya and Ashvamedha Yagyas. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The place where the Ganges flows into the salt water of the Bay of Bengal is still known as Ganga Sagara, or the meeting place of the Ganges and the Bay of Bengal. On Makara Sankranti, in the month of January-February, thousands of people still go there to bathe, hoping to be liberated. That they can actually be liberated in this way is confirmed herein. For those who bathe in the Ganges at any time, the results of great sacrifices like the Ashvamedha and Rajasuya Yagya are not at all difficult to achieve. Most people in India are still inclined to bathe in the Ganges, and there are many places where they can do so. At Prayag, Allahabad, many thousands of people gather during the month of January to bathe in the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. Afterward, many of them go to the confluence of the Bay of Bengal and the Ganges to take bath there. Thus, it is a special facility for all the people of India that they can bathe in the water of the Ganges at so many places of pilgrimage. The end of the purport. And the translation is, the branch of the Ganges known as the Alakananda, that's the branch, flows from the southern side of Brahmapuri, passing over the tops of the mountains in various lands. It falls with fierce force onto Hemakuta and Himakuta. And then it falls onto Bharatavarsha, and then it flows into the ocean of salt water in the south. Persons who come to bathe in this river are fortunate, and it's not difficult for them to achieve with every step the results of performing the Rajasuya and Ashvamedha Yagyas. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jananjana-salakaya Chakshura-militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good morning again, devotees. For those who have just joined, we are reading about the beautiful Ganges River, the descent of Mother Ganga. And it's a very beautiful chapter with many beautiful descriptions. And here we're hearing about how a person who bathes in the Ganges, persons who bathe in the Ganges are very fortunate. And we hear how they can achieve the results of many yagyas. And we also hear of this Makara Sankranti, so we can talk a little bit about what that is. And then maybe we'll talk about, as much as the bathing in the Ganges gives liberation and is so potent, what do devotees want? Do they want more? What's happening with that? So with the Ganges River, it's so beautiful. We have Ganga Devi, and we have Yamuna River, Mother Yamuna, Mother Ganga. And there's one story I think Radhanath Swami tells about how, and we know that also from various sources, that Ganga is thinking that Yamuna is doing such wonderful service. The Gopas are bathing in her, and Krishna and Balaram are bathing in her, and they're bringing the cows and calves and the bulls to drink her waters, and they're all having all sorts of water sports, and she's supplying such beautiful arrangements. And even Yashoda Mai is bathing Krishna in the Yamuna. Nanda Maharaj is taking his bath in the Yamuna. Krishna and all his friends are having the most intimate, loving leelas. And the gopis, are there, and Krishna stands on the bank of the Yamuna. He plays his flute, and Yamuna is stopping her waters and bringing him lotus flowers. On the banks, the gopis are having Rasa Leela. Krishna, and she's offering soothing breezes for the pleasure of Krishna and Radha and the gopis. And so many pastimes are there in the Yamuna, and they, play in the waters, hide behind lotus flowers. Yamuna is just serving and serving, and all she does is serve and facilitate love to facilitate the pastimes. And Mother Ganga is there too, because she's thinking how beautiful is Yamuna. So she's not envious, she's not jealous. She's just so happy to see the good fortune of Yamuna. But there's this pastime, I think, or the story told that she was longing to do that service. So she did some tapasya, and Krishna gave her the blessing. I think we know in Kali Yuga, Radha and Krishna appear as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and and there's this Leela in Navadvip, and Ganga is there to assist in every way. And how she assisted, like so many different ways. When Mahaprabhu decided to appear, he chose to do it during an eclipse where everyone was in the Ganga. And those days, for the whole duration of the eclipse, everyone at that time, used to stand in the Ganga and loudly chant the holy name, the Maha Mantra. Also, Nimai, when he was a little boy, his mother would make all nice arrangements for him to bathe in the Ganga. When he was a student, practically for a major portion of the day, Nimai and his students would play in the Ganga, splash and, water at each other in the face of the Brahmanas, trouble them while they're trying to do their Gayatri. So many pastimes of playing in the Ganga almost all day, Nimai and his friends. Just like how in Yamuna, Krishna and the Gopas are there. So, Nimai would offer his worship, 3 times a day he would bow down to Ganga and worship her and honor her. And so, there's kind of all these beautiful pastimes in these beautiful personalities as rivers. And so much mercy is there, and all of us are then getting that same mercy as Ganga and Yamuna continue to exist in this, contemporary time. And, even Mahaprabhu inaugurated the Sankirtan movement on the bank of the Ganga. He took sannyas at Katwa on the bank of the Ganga, bathed in the Ganga, and then went to Puri. And so Mother Ganga is always so eager to continue assisting Lord Chaitanya, who's bathing in, at least 3 times a day and, just being there most of the time. And she's offering her life for the pleasure of the Lord. I think even Vrindavan Thakur explains this. And then I think when I think this is Radhanath Swami in this pastime. So I'm kind of like paraphrasing from what I heard and notes I made. So I think when Lord Chaitanya went to Puri, Ganga was flowing very fast from Navadvip to merge into the sea. And at Ganga Sagar, she merges into the sea, and then she rushed to Puri because Lord Chaitanya was bathing in the sea there 3 times a day. And there she was assisting and facilitating the happiness of the Lord. And we also hear about bathing Haridas Thakur's body and so many other wonderful pastimes. We know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, saying, I come in 2 forms in this age of Kali, as wood and as water. As wood, I am Lord Jagannath, and as water, I am Mother Ganga, who has come to deliver the fallen souls of their sins and give love for Krishna. So, and Lord Chaitanya would say also that I'm going to Bengal for 2 reasons when he would leave and go back, to see my mother Sachi and my mother Ganga. And, and he would always explain how anyone who bathes in Ganga, touches the Ganga, drinks Ganga, sees Ganga, or anyone who's touched by a breeze that has come from Ganga will actually get Krishna Prem. Here we're just hearing about liberation, but this is Lord Chaitanya in his, as anointed Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, speaking like this about Ganga. But one wonders, like, is this an exaggeration? But no, Marge is explaining here, we have to be receptive. That blessing is there, but we have to be receptive to receive this benefit of Mother Ganga. He makes an analogy. He says, just as, we may go to an Ayurvedic doctor, he might say, like, we need to do something before you can actually take some medicine. So they might say, oh, do some sort of panchakarma or something, or some abbreviated version, and that'll facilitate your ability to digest and assimilate the medicine. Otherwise, even the best medicine you get, if you can't digest and assimilate it, it has minimal benefit to one. So to the degree that we have the power to assimilate a medicine, it actually takes effect. So to the degree we are humble, to the degree we are grateful, to the degree we really, really deeply have a service attitude, to the degree that we really have faith, then yes, just the breeze of Ganga can awaken a lot of love of God within us, if we have the receptivity to digest that blessing. It's like, if we have a big feast at Govardhan Puja and we're laying on our left side, wishing we hadn't eaten so much. And then someone comes with a big, gigantic gulab jamun and says, wait, please take this. And you go, oh, and sometimes we have no power. But if we're really hungry, then we can really appreciate and assimilate it and digest it. So similarly, that humility, that gratitude, that service attitude, it gives us hunger for Krishna Prem, gives us hunger for service, a hunger to chant Krishna's holy names. And then when we chant their names, Krishna's names, when we take bath in Ganga, when we associate with the sadhus, then we get proportionate effects. And so this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appreciation of Mother Ganga. Narottam Das Thakur, he says in one song, he explains that by bathing hundreds of times in the Ganga, one could be purified of sins, and eventually love of God could awaken by just seeing a pure Vaishnava. So as much as Lord Chaitanya is glorifying Mother Ganga so much, Narottam Das Thakur is reminding us that yes, when you bathe in Ganga, you get rid of your sins, but when you see a pure devotee, the love of God is awakened that way, which is what the devotees are aspiring for. So the same effect is achieved because devotees of the Lord, they are holy places, personified. Srila Prabhupada explained in this regard that people come to bathe in the Ganga, but because they don't have proper understanding, they don't have proper gratitude, they don't have proper conception of what the purpose of life is, they take the bath in the Ganga, but they don't really benefit very much. Therefore, the real purpose of going on pilgrimage, as we always reminded, going to Vrindavan and Navadvip is to associate with the sadhus, with devotees, because the Ganga of Harikatha that is coming from their mouths, it's the Ganga of blessings that are coming from their hearts, that is most valuable. That is priceless and is the topmost blessings. Prabhupada would quote Vedavyas saying, those who go to a holy place just to bathe in the river without associating and seeking out saintly people, this is a symptom of Kali. Yes, Ganga is all merciful, but without the blessings of saintly people and learning from them, we cannot access that blessing. And the most powerful current of grace, and like how Maharaj expresses this, in this age of Kali, is Krishna's holy names. So we know how there's, talking of oceans, Kali is an ocean of faults, but there's this benediction. If we're just grateful to receive the instruction of Prabhupada, and it's shown through our actions and our practice, he has given us this ultimate benediction. Simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord, the result of following every other possible devotional activity comes. And so also, so much more about Mother Ganga. Kapila Dev explains, even if you're born in a family of a Chandala, lowest birth by social standing, and one is chanting the holy names, one has gone to all the holy places, bathed in all the holy rivers, studied all the Vedas, done all kinds of yagyas, that same result is there simply by serving the Vaishnavas in this age of Kali and crying out in Krishna's names, crying out through the holy name of the Lord. So some thoughts and reflections that I kind of paraphrase from what I heard from Marsh. And so then another point is made in this purport about how people, are going to the Ganga to be liberated, and they certainly are getting great benefit of all these, including the results of sacrifices like Ashwamedha and Rajasuya. It becomes very easy. That's her potency. And again, here though, we were hearing from Raj about the potency of engaging in these special acts of devotional service in proper consciousness and proper attitude to get full results. And then the purport also talks about Makara Sankranti. Let's talk a little bit about that. I don't know if the previous speakers have mentioned some things in that, but just a few points on that. So the auspicious day falls in the Krishna Paksha of Magha Mas, which is January. And it's considered very auspicious because it marks the entering of the sun into the sign of Capricorn, which is known as Makar. So it's, I found this little excerpt. Lord Surya on his dazzling chariot that has thousands of spokes and magnificent wheels and is driven by 7 horses, the 7 colors of the spectrum, begins his journey northward into the Makara Rasi on this day, filling our lives with light and getting rid of the darkness. This light not only fills our material life and helps our plants grow at seeding time, but also gets rid of our internal darkness, showing the path of self-realization. The Brahma Sutras proclaim that the time of death is immaterial in the case of a devotee. It is established that although one who has knowledge of the Lord can die during any time, their exaltations of Uttarayana are to praise, meditation on the path to Vaikuntha, which the wise devotee takes upon death. This divine path, beginning with light, is presided upon by deities of greater and greater brilliance, with Uttarayana being one of them. So this part, the Marga, culminates in this, liberation, but Shastra says it should be meditated upon daily. And although in ancient times, the Sankranti was observed and celebrated, Makar Sankranti is of special importance as it marks the beginning of the auspicious 6-month period of Uttarayan. So what has happened what are some past events on Makar Sankranti? There are 3 things. One is the descent of Mother Ganges, which we just were reading about. And then also it's understood that Bhishma Dev left his body on this day. After the war on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Bhishma was lying on a bed of arrows, at that time he was waiting for the sun to enter into Uttarayan, as it is considered to be an auspicious time. And then he left his body on this auspicious day of Makar Sankranti, while beholding the beautiful face of Lord Krishna in the holy place of Kurukshetra, also known as Dharmashetra. The Uttarayan, northern course of the sun, was traditionally considered more auspicious than the southern course of the sun, which is called Dakshinayana. All the astrologers would appreciate this. It was also the time when we heard earlier that Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas. This significant event also took place on this day, when Lord Chaitanya accepted the sannyas order of life for the purpose of preaching and propagating the path of devotional service and delivering all the fallen conditioned souls in this age of Kali. It was on this day that he left behind his widowed mom, his young wife in Mayapur, and in the village of Katwa, he announced his Grihastha ashram and accepted sannyas, as we know from Shri Keshava Bharati, shaving his beautiful locks of hair and donning saffron cloth. Although being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one of his opulence is that he is the most renounced, and therefore there was no need for him to accept the renounced order of sannyas. Yet, seeing the fault-finding nature of the people and understanding that he would accept the life of a renunciant, the general populace would be able to give him the proper respect and refrain from committing offenses at his lotus feet. He decided to take sannyas. And then, as we know, he inundated the entire universe with Krishna Bhakti, and it is due to his causeless mercy alone that we are able to today, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, tread the path of devotion, following in the footsteps of his devotees. And then, of course, we read the two events, and then descent of Mother Ganga. On this glorious day, Mother Ganges, she descends into the earthly planet after the austere penances performed by King Bhagirath. And yeah, we're going to be reading more about it, so I won't get into too much detail. And so we heard how numerous devotees, pilgrims, go to bathe in her holy waters at the various locations, including the confluence, like Ganga Sagar. Okay, that's some other thoughts there. There were some cultural details, how Makar Sankranti is observed. Special dishes are made on this day. What else? There's also celebration of the new harvest. The harvest is brought home. The new rice is boiled in milk and offered. It's celebrated for 3 days, but the offerings are made to Surya, as far as I remember. Apparently on this day, kites are flown for some reason. I don't know what the full significance and depiction is there. Yeah, I want to look into that. I don't look into it. So we're hearing about the glories of Mother Ganga. We're hearing about, as much as she's so important to give liberation, we need to be able to bathe in her in proper consciousness. Hearing about this time, Makar Sankranti, how special and auspicious it is. And I thought we can talk a little bit about, as much as liberation is granted, how devotional service surpasses all liberation. Devotees want more than liberation. I think with devotees, we're already finding that, when we approach Mother Ganga, we train by Prabhupada and our seniors how to do that. So we're getting all benefits. But nonetheless, I think just from a perspective of just reminding ourselves about the concept of liberation in general and how that's not what we're aspiring for, it's nice to refresh ourselves with some pastimes and bits of nectar from different Shastra, like Nectar of Devotion and Bhagavatam, of course, even Bhagavad Gita, that, sometimes in subtle ways, our behavior, our speech might be kind of like unintentionally leading to liberation, but we need to be reminded that's not what we want, even though we may be subtly pursuing it in our different habits and patterns. We want something higher, and we need, we can check ourselves and bring ourselves back on track to say, wait, that's going to take me to this higher planetary system, but I really want the absolute highest destination of Goloka Vrindavan. So let me recheck my aspirations and my practice. So this is Nectar of Devotion. We hear in chapter 4 how devotional service surpasses all liberation. And Prabhupada's made it so easy for us, like just through devotional service. But then, of course, that's the easy part. Okay, we can start to engage, but then, through our practice, we see that so much comes up, and we're faced with different choices, challenges, and then that's when the real kind of bhakti principle is activated in how we choose Krishna, and how we constantly are choosing Krishna, and the subtleties of living ourselves in a very devotional way. So this chapter 4 is talking about devotional service surpasses our liberation. And it says how much a devotee is seriously attached to devotional service can be understood by some of the things Marge Pretu has said. My dear Lord, if after taking liberation I have no chance of hearing the glories of your Lordship, glories chanted by pure devotees from the core of their hearts in praise of your lotus feet, and if I have no chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, then I shall never ask for liberation or the so-called spiritual emancipation. I shall simply always pray unto your Lordship that you may give me millions of tongues and millions of ears, so that I can constantly chant and hear of your transcendental glories. Some beautiful prayers. What I like about Nectar of Devotion is as Rupa Goswami makes each point, then he gives all the different statements from various chapters in Bhagavatam and examples. So let's revisit some of those. Another statement in 5th canto, the great soul King Bharat was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and his affection for his children, society, friends, royal opulence, and beautiful wife. He was so very lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions, but he never accepted any of these material opulences. Sukadeva Goswami says, any person whose heart is attracted by the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudana, not to speak of material opulences, does not even care for that liberation, which is aspired to by many great sages. So so many times we're faced with different attractions. Of course, as devotees, we just don't artificially renounce anything. We fulfill our responsibilities, but we know the things that attract us that are not in alignment with our spiritual goals. And so we are reminded here how to not fall into that trap. And in 6th canto, who is the speaking? Vritrasura, my dear Lord, by leaving your transcendental service, I may be promoted to the planet called Dhruvaloka, or I may gain lordship over all the planetary systems of the universe. But I do not aspire to this, nor do I wish the mystic perfections of yoga practice, nor do I aspire to spiritual emancipation. All I wish for, my Lord, is your association and transcendental service eternally. So nice prayers we can make and repeat also. In 6th canto, Lord Shiva addresses Sati. He says, my dear Sati, persons who are devoted to Krishna, not afraid, Narayan, parentheses, Krishna, are not afraid of anything. If they are elevated to the higher planetary systems, or if they get liberation from material contamination, or if they are punished down to the hellish condition of life, or in fact, in any situation, whatever, they are not afraid of anything, simply because they have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Narayan. For them, any position in the material world is as good as another. That is a very difficult verse sometimes to understand and appreciate as devotees when we're challenged. But yes, we can somehow try to develop our consciousness to the point of no matter what condition I am in, it's I can still remember and serve Krishna. So there's so many other references here, and that remind us, how devotional service surpasses liberation. And then, as we kind of advance or do more and more time in devotional life, hopefully trying to deepen our consciousness, we're wanting to aspire for pure devotional service. That's like a whole nother topic in and of itself and can be looked at from so many different angles. But Nectar of Devotion, again, like the very first chapter, chapter 1, characteristics of pure devotional service. So, it starts off by saying how in the 3rd canto, Kapila Devi is instructing his mom, and he says, my dear mother, those who are my pure devotees and who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculation have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything, except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me. And then, we're reminded about the 5 kinds of liberation. to become one with the Lord, to live with the Supreme Lord on the same planet, to have the same features as the Lord, to enjoy the same opulences as Him, and to live as a companion of the Lord. A devotee, what to speak of rejecting material sense gratification, does not even want any of these 5 kinds of liberation. He's simply satisfied by discharging loving service to the Lord. And that is the characteristic of pure devotion. So what are the characteristics? Rupa Goswami explains this to us, and it's so expansive, but we'll just refresh a little bit. We know pure devotional service, and we felt it in moments of purity, but it definitely brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. And it's also the beginning of all auspiciousness. It automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. No other activity can take us from the mundane to transcendental. It's also rarely achieved, so very rare. And those in pure devotional service deride even the concept of liberation. And we understand that it's the only means to attract Krishna. So there's so much more about that. And we have some time that I can open up for reflections. Let's see here. Okay, we can skip some of these other notes that I have. So we're reading here in summary for today the descent of Mother Ganga and how potent she is, and how we can approach her in proper consciousness. And we heard about Makar Sankranti, and as much as Mother Ganga can give liberation, we also contemplating and reflecting on how we want more than liberation. And actually what we really want is devotional service, absorption at the lotus feet of Shri Radha Krishna and Radha Damodar, of course, for us. So, in this way, with our very fervent interest in devotional service, we can please our spiritual masters and previous acharyas. So thank you, devotees. Opening up for, let's read the translation once more, sorry, and then we can open up for reflections. Similarly, the branch of the Ganges, known as the Alaknanda River, known as the Alaknanda, flows from the southern side of Brahmapuri, Brahmasadana, passing over the tops of mountains in various lands. It falls down with fierce force upon the peaks of the mountains Hemakuta and Himakuta. After inundating the tops of those mountains, the Ganges falls down onto the tract of land known as Bharatavarsha, which she also inundates. Then the Ganges flows into the ocean of salt water in the south. Persons who come to bathe in this river are fortunate. It is not very difficult for them to achieve with every step the results of performing great sacrifices like the Rajasuya and Ashvamedha Yagyas. Thank you, devotees. Opening up for reflections. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Hare Krishna, why? How are you?
How are you?
I am well. Nice to have your Sangha this morning.
Yes, very grateful to be here. That was very, very potent. Everything that you just spoke, very potent. I'm still sitting with a lot of it, but definitely I feel like I don't know the names, so I'm not going to repeat them just now, but even them stating like bring me back to live this life a million times over, a million years over, so I can hear of your holiness and chant your names. That in itself, like how you were saying, the conversation like between pure devotional service and just pure devotional loving service and just devotional loving service is very, very different. And yeah, kind of basing your practice off of that and from that. And you even saying like checking your aspirations, checking your aspirations when you are wanting to go towards something or invest in something, because you know, knowing that wanting to be in devotional service, but even separate from that pure devotional service to where you just want to be of service to the Lord without anything at all whatsoever.
Thank you. Yeah. So many subtleties on this path, and therefore to stay in good association and to stay close to Shastra, is kind of where a lot of the realizations come and the checks and balances. So thank you for sharing that also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kari Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother Parijata. Thank you so much for that very educational class. I really appreciate it. Your description of Makara Sankranti, especially, it's a new Gregorian year on the Gregorian calendar. And it's amazing. You didn't even mention that, just to show that you're not even interested in this mainstream stuff. In any case, my question relates to as Rupa Goswami describes it, the crocodile of liberation. So when you read Prabhupada's books, and his commentaries a lot of them are based on Rupa Goswami and the six Goswamis, you just get a sense that like liberation is as dangerous as material sense gratification. So my question is, in describing this topic and presenting it that way to devotees who are still attached to YouTube, Instagram, and other crocodiles of Kali Yuga, like liberation doesn't actually seem to be a bad thing. It still seems to be aspirational for the devotee in that consciousness. So when I think you quoted that last statement. So pure devotion described in relationship to liberation. So for the devotee who's given up sense gratification, when they actually give up liberation, then that they actually seem to be a pure devotee. So it seems to be conditional. So in other words, to see liberation as a crocodile, first of all, you need to actually have given up mainstream sense gratification in the form of YouTube, Instagram, and all these other, and Hollywood, etc. So how do you is that a valid point, or or should even the neophyte still be warned against, the neophyte is still attached to mainstream sense gratification? Should they still be warned against the crocodile of liberation?
Yeah, such a nice point you're making, Agari. Everything is so systematic, like, we're coming to devotional life and we're giving up some habits and there's some transformation. But how much sometimes we kind of get some fatigue from giving up so much. But when one practices with depth, and what does it mean? One practices as much as sincerely as one can, because in the absence of purity, Krishna is reciprocating with sincerity, especially for those of us, like I know myself, So that constant endeavor in the face of adversity, the constant endeavor in the face of challenges, and the constant endeavor in the face of other choices that don't serve our ultimate highest interest, self-interest as spirit souls, that's where we need to check ourselves. We are bombarded by social media. It's kind of like, even sometimes I just want to go and watch something on I don't know how to grow this, or I'm just putting in something, I'm applying for solar energy grant, and I just go and just Google this, and then 50 other things come up. So even just to educate myself on anything from regarding the cows or agriculture or something. I'm learning some principle. We're going to the screen and we're stepping into this world, the World Wide Web. And it's really horrible how it is. So it takes extra discipline, it takes extra endeavor. And I think devotees would be wise to equip themselves with some very practical tools through proper time management, through proper desire management, to be able to carve out their time in such a way as they're not absorbed, that we don't get absorbed and distracted by social media. I mean, I know of like amazing examples of how devotees are using social media to put out strong messaging, subliminal and, direct messaging from, Shastra directly. And that's kind of that's a space we want to be in. If you're scrolling, the algorithms are there. And if you keep listening to, all the reels on the different devotees in bhakti, in our ISKCON movement, then you're going to get more of that, and you're reminded. That's one way to start to at least start to spiritualize that urge. And there's such drops of nectar for us. But be careful, it's a very delicate situation. And I think it comes down to being mindful that it's the social media and kind of like all of that is designed to distract us. And we don't want distractions. We just want absorption in our ultimate well-wisher. Because when we take shelter of distractions, we tend to be dissatisfied and we hanker more and more. I think there's also, an element of understanding oneself deeply on, when we take shelter of these distractions. So, we need to know what are these unmet needs and how do I meet them through my devotional aspirations in life so that becomes all of me, not that part of me is engaging in devotional service and the other part of me, if I need to relax, I'm just gonna, scroll or do this or do that. No. We need to turn to each other, turn to Bhagavatam, turn to inspiring and uplifting and nourishing content. Content management, desire management, what we have to be so clear on what takes up real estate space in our consciousness. It's prime real estate. Don't give it away. Don't sell it away. Let's not do that. It's gonna just get us into a space that is kind of stuck, After some time, we realize, no, I want more than this. And if we need to be in that space, then we try to make our contribution to uplift it. I know some of you are content producers and different things and, using it as methods for outreach. That's awesome. And so, yeah, I think Nectar Devotion also, talks about bhukti and mukti and how they just are just like traps. They just steal us away from the actual goal because the euphoria of just feeling liberated. No, but we want something deeper. And what we want is the sacrifice that comes with love, the endeavor that comes so that we can taste Krishna Prema. I mean, think of the relationships we've all had. All the relationships that are full of love have not been easy ones, but they've been the most fulfilling and sweetest ones. And that's what we are after. We are after the depth of what Prabhupada has shown us we can taste. I'd like to hear other reflections on Nagari Krishna Prabhu's point.
Thank you so much. That's such a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Other thoughts and reflections on this very controversial topic also?
I could maybe add a few words.
Thank you, Taraka Prabhu.
Not sure I understood his question clearly, but I think he was questioning the the proper timing for introducing the concept of
Yes.
going beyond even liberation, Kaivalya. And so we were just I don't know, a few verses earlier. Srila Prabhupada was discussing his purports. He quoted, there's one verse, I can't recall that verse now, in which the verse talks about how devotees regard Kaivalya as hellish. And this concept is introduced immediately. It's just everywhere. Our acharyas talk about this extensively. It's just everywhere. And Srila Prabhupada's books, it's all throughout his books at every stage. He doesn't introduce it gradually or at some particular stage, but just immediately. This is the situation. You have there are the different types of liberation, and but Vaishnavas regard Kaivalya particularly is considered to be no better than hell. The word naraka is used in the verse. What is that? What is that verse? Is that fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? There are many mentions. Let's see if I can find this here. I'm not sure. Shucks. I was looking at it just the other day. Anyway, that's the point that Kaivalya is always because it means essentially spiritual suicide. You're giving up your individuality, and with that, any possibility of personal interaction with Krishna. So devotees want nothing to do with such a thing. It's terrible. It's hellish, completely repugnant to a Vaishnava. They want Krishna, and so mukti means no personal relationship with Krishna. It's an impersonal situation. So we don't want anything to do with that, and we do issue a warning about this from right from the get-go that because there is already so much emphasis on um, liberation coming from so many pseudo transcendentalists. This is their aspiration, and they try to propagate this sort of aspiration. It's very common. Impersonalism and impersonal liberation is predominating everywhere in the world. We are trying to counteract that influence. So Srila Prabhupada wastes no time introducing that concept that we want nothing to do with Kaivalya. We want our liberation is in devotional service, and that's just vastly superior. So there's that. Hey, while we're talking about Ganga Sagara, Ganga Sagara is at Ganga Sagara very famously is Kapila Ashram. That's where he performed his austerities. It's the place of Kapila Dev, and very famous and popular pilgrimage place for millennia. In during Krishna Lila, Lord Balaram visited Ganga Sagra, and then again in Chaitanya Lila as Lord Nityananda, he also made a pilgrimage to Ganga Sagra. So very special place. Um, at the other end of the Ganga, well, close to the other end of the Ganga, we have, I think, Venu Madhurya was talking the other. He mentioned the Triveni, the confluence of the Ganges, the Jamuna, and the Saraswati. Saraswati is now invisible. You can see the point where the Jamuna and the Ganga come together, but some say the Saraswati is now running underground, or that has changed course, or for whatever reason, you no longer see the Saraswati at the Triveni. Um, but the Triveni, this is in, excuse me, Allahabad, where Srila Prabhupada used to have his pharmacy. Um, and so he regularly had experience of the annual Magh Mela, which takes place there. He speaks about it often. Um, every year, annually, there's the Magh Mela, which is attended by millions. Makara Sankranti also, you have millions of people visiting Sagra, Ganga Sagra, but probably the biggest pilgrimage in all of India is pilgrimage to the Triveni in Allahabad for the annual Magh Mela, and then especially every 12 years is the Maha Kumbh Mela, or the excuse me, the Magh Mela every year, the Kumbh Mela every 12 years, which is very big, many tens of millions of people, and then the Maha Kumbh Mela is 12 cycles of 12 years, 144 years, and Srila Prabhupada attended that also in 77. Was the Maha Kumbh Mela. Srila Prabhupada was there for that, and 60 million people, if you can imagine, 60 million people camping on the sandy banks of the Ganges. The Indian Army in the months prior, they put in roads, streets, and avenues. They divide the whole riverbank into streets and avenues like a city. They actually construct a temporary city of tents. People, different groups, rent a particular plot to set up their camp. So we got cheated that year, unfortunately. The plot that we wound up with was on an island in the Ganges under a railroad crossing. And people had a hard time finding us there. You had to go across a pontoon bridge to find the ISKCON camp. Srila Prabhupada was unhappy about that. But everyone will have their camp there, and you get not just millions of pilgrims coming, but also all everyone who is anyone in spiritual circles in India will show up for the Kumbh Mela and the Maha Kumbh Mela. So you have thousands of yogis and Nagababas and um, all the Shaivites, and just everyone is there. It's an incredible circus. It's an amazing sight to see. Um, and probably interesting to note is that by and large, there's the festival is inaugurated with a procession, which includes elephants and all kinds of elements. You have these armies of yogis and sadhus of all kinds marching in this procession, thousands upon thousands of people, um, maybe 50 across, and the line goes on for miles and miles and miles all day long. It's an incredible number of individuals, and amazing thing to see because most of these sadhus are actually stark naked, covered with ashes, and you see on the sidelines there are all these Indian families, men, women, children, all standing there watching these armies of men actually marching in formation, 50 abreast and just miles long, absolutely stark naked, and but this is not regarded as controversial in any way. Everyone is very respectful. Um, for people from the West, that's quite an extraordinary sight, but um, it's a whole different world. Um, Srila Prabhupada was invited to participate in the procession. He had no interest in doing that, and so he didn't. But for for those of us who watch the procession pass, it was interesting to note that there, um, out of all these, I don't know, tens of thousands of sadhus, there was no one presenting anything of value. Nothing. You didn't have like Srila Prabhupada's followers. Dedicated Vaishnavas committed to propagating Krishna consciousness. There was all kinds of other nonsense, a lot of Shaivites, and all kinds of terrible deviations. Um, you could just see the consciousness sometimes of some of these sadhus, very interested in Pratishtha. They're lavishly worshipped by their followers who would actually. Uh, I remember watching one Shaivite. Uh, he in the procession, his followers had arranged a vehicle for him, which was by Indian standards, very prestigious. It was some old American car from, I don't know, the 50s or something, but in India it was a big deal. There were very few cars in India at that time. Now there's cars everywhere, but at that time cars were very rare. Um, so he was sitting on the hood of this car, um, and I don't want to get graphic, but he was initially wearing Copen, but I don't know, I guess he felt he was being upstaged by the army of Nagababas around him. So at some point he got off the hood and removed his Copen, and immediately his followers jumped out of the car with flower garlands to garland his genitals. Um, so, it gives you a hint, a clue as to, where the consciousness of these people is at. Um, so, the devotees, Srila Prabhupada's followers, wandered all around this incredible city of millions of people doing Harinam and distributing literature. We got a chance to see what was going on, and by and large, there was nothing of any value. There were lots of people who were into worship of the demigods for various material benefits, and people interested in mystic cities and uh, lots of people looking for all kinds of material gain, but hard to find, pure Krishna bhakti anywhere, which left us with the profound understanding that we have uniquely a very special responsibility. We realized at that time that there's no one else to do this job besides us. Srila Prabhupada's movement, everyone that was anyone was there. But Srila Prabhupada's devotees were the only ones really preaching Krishna consciousness. So the responsibility, it seems, falls entirely on us. There's no one else in the world that's going to do this. Or at least, those that, whatever they're doing, they're not propagating the pure message of Krishna consciousness. It's some adulteration or complete deviation. So something to think about, that we have an immense responsibility. There's a hand up, so I'm going to shut up and go away. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dharka Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for clarification on the question in terms of timing. Anyway, in response to that, I would say timing, when to introduce somebody. Well, we can talk about that because some of those persons that might have been relevant to, they've left the call. Nilakeshwari.
Hare
Krishna.
Good morning.
Nice.
Oh, when you ask for reflections after your classes, I'm like sitting there stunned. It's like when you go to a feast, like a Sunday feast, and then the devotees just keep piling prasadam, but you're like, no. And then like you sit down and you don't even know where to start because there's just so much like goodness and wonderfulness on the plate that you have to honor. And that's how your classes are. It's just like a feast. You give so many wonderful points, Parijata Dasi. And it's so good coming to your classes. So a couple of the things that really struck me, one was when you talked about having to have the reverence and the proper attitude to digest the blessings that are offered through the path of bhakti, through sitting in the presence of holy persons, that we have to cooperate for this to happen. Like it doesn't just happen magically. And, you can be chanting your sadhana and doing all these wonderful things in devotional service, these physical things. And I thought about when you talked about going into Mother Ganga, that's a physical action, like putting your body into this water. But there's something so much more that needs to happen there, And so if you're not in the right attitude and the right consciousness, you'll get some blessings, but you won't get the whole package. And I think when Agari Krishna was talking earlier, I was thinking about being a mother, and that, there's these formulas that they give you. Like they say, oh, by 8 months, the baby should be eating this. You should only nurse this long when they get to, all these. And if you go by these books, you could literally destroy a kid because they're all different. So my first baby, I went by all those, do this, do that. And, thank Krishna, she just had a really good disposition and a really, accepting body. And she was able to transition to solid foods. The second one was colicky. It was insane. It was like, no, I just have to keep nursing. And you learn because you find out by associating with this little person what they're able to take on. And the Apostle Paul said in one of his talks, and he used meat because they were eating meat. He said, you give milk until someone can accept solid food, basically. And you only know that by being in contact and associating with that person. So there are some people who are going to be able to take more information sooner, and some people who are going to have to be spoon-fed. Being one of the spoon-fed, I mean, who my Guru Maharaj is, he knew me from forever and could have told me a whole bunch of stuff at once, but he knew I wouldn't be able to hear it. I wouldn't be able to accept it coming from a very Christian background. So he gave me what I could listen to. In talking with Christian friends more recently, what I say is, heaven is a real place, but what if there's something better? What if there's more? And they're like, what? Because it's like, no, that's the goal. That's, and it's like, well, just think about it. And I give them just a little bit of Bhagavad Gita, And it's amazing that some of them come back and they want a little more. And some of them just can't, and that's fine, because it's not for me to judge that. I can only, by associating and asking Krishna to bless the conversations, I can only then sense what's enough and what might be too much at a given time, right? Time, place, and circumstance. So I just love all of those things that you said, and mostly about protecting the time and having the reverence, because once I remember Devamrita Maharaj telling me, this is going to cleanse your heart. It's going to take the dust off your heart. But then he didn't tell me. And once that happens, then this is the next thing that's going to, it's like, do this first, right? Chant, right? Develop this habit, and then the habit becomes a want, a desire, like you said. And then it's like, I couldn't go a day without it. You're like, what would my day be like if I don't start with, and so it grows. And to me, I'm grateful that I was given the opportunity for that to happen organically, that I was encouraged and guided. And then also when you said about the blessings of the sadhus, I'm going on, but you gave so many good things. I was thinking about Mary and Martha in the Bible, and Jesus was there talking to the disciples. And, one of the sisters was one of these very, what we say, traditional women. Like, I'm going to be cleaning and cooking and getting everything ready for Maharaj because that's, my devotional service. And the other one was just sitting at his feet, just listening, just like absorbing it, And the sister who was very traditional came to him and said, you should reprimand her. She's not helping me do this service for you. And he said, she picked the best part. You kind of missed out. Like, yeah, that's lovely. And I'm grateful that you cooked and you cleaned. But the best part is that I'm not always going to be here to give you this. And she sat down and wanted to receive it, And I remember having a similar experience when Maharaj was at Gita Nagari. I was cooking for him and he was going to give Mahakirtan. And he was walking down the road and I ran out to see him and he said, are you coming? And I said, oh, well, I have to cook for you. And he was like, And that's all he said. He just was like, because he doesn't really, he doesn't really like, he just was like, And he went on down the road. And then I went back and I did cook for him. And to this day, I regret missing that kirtan. To this day, So, I mean, it's practical things for me and it's at a neophyte level, but just know that you definitely opened my heart and my mind further today. And it will affect my practice moving forward and how I protect my time. And isn't that really what Srimad Bhagavatam class is about, making this come alive for us? So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leela Kishore. You do the same for us with your beautiful reflections. And I always take so many beautiful instructions from them also, so many gems in your wisdom and your experience and your time. So thank you, thank you. I love that analogy you made about, with the child and working with what works for them. So similarly with timing, yeah, it's very person specific. And that's our process, personalism, so thank you. Thank you, devotees, for staying and sharing. And I always feel very uplifted and enlivened by your Sangha. And we'll catch you tomorrow. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Later.